Saturday morning in 90s, Britain started with your eyes snapping open at around 7 in the morning, sometimes even earlier. This was properly odd because during the week your mum had to shake you awake 3 times just to get you ready for school. But come Saturday you were bolt upright before anyone else stirred. The reason was simple. You had about 4 hours of cartoons waiting and every minute counted. You'd slide out of bed and pad across the landing in your pyjamas, making absolutely sure to avoid that one creaky floorboard outside your parents' room. The house had this strange quiet to it at that hour, not quite silence but close. Just the hum of the fridge downstairs and maybe some birds outside. You'd creep down the stairs one step at a time, keeping to the edges where they didn't creak as much, holding your breath whenever you heard a noise. Once you made it to the living room door, you were basically home free. The carpet was cold under your feet, the curtains were still drawn, and the whole morning stretched out in front of you like a gift. You were first, you'd claimed it, and nothing was going to interrupt the next few hours. Saturday morning started the same way every week. You'd wake up before your parents, stumble downstairs, and grab a box from the cereal cupboard. Frosties with Tony the Tiger Cocoa Pops that turned your milk brown, golden Grahams that tasted like crushed biscuits. But the cereal itself was only half the point. Inside every box sat a plastic toy, and if you were impatient, you'd shove your hand straight down to fish it out. By the 80s, they were everywhere. Within minutes, you'd be on the floor cross-legged, bowl in lap, face about 6 inches from the television. The sugar hit happened fast, turning you into a fizzing bundle of energy while the cartoons blared. Your mum would yell from the kitchen about sitting too close to the telly, but you barely heard her over Transformers and the crunching in your ears. That combination of cereal, cartoon, and complete sugar overload defined weekend mornings for an entire generation. Live and Kicking launched on the 2nd of October 1993 as the BBC's answer to Saturday morning television. You got 3 hours of non-stop entertainment starting at 9 in the morning, which was a proper commitment if you think about it. The original hosts were Andy Peters and Emma Forbes, with John Barrowman handling the entertainment news segment called Electric Circus. The format was straightforward enough. You had celebrity guests turning up for interviews, music videos from whatever bands were popular that week, cartoons mixed throughout, and various phoning competitions where kids at home could win prizes. Trevor and Simon provided comedy sketches, and there were game segments like Run the Risk, where children competed in messy obstacle courses involving a lot of gunge. The show also had puppet characters called Mr. Sage and Mr. Onion, who became regulars, along with Mr. Blobby making appearances. Peters and Forbes left in 1996, replaced by Zoe Ball and Jamie Theakston, who presented for 3 years and kept the ratings strong. But by the late 90s, SMTV on ITV started pulling viewers away. The BBC tried various new presenters after Ball and Theakston departed, but nothing worked. Live and Kicking ended in 2000 after the competition finally killed it off. SMTV Live launched on the 29th of August 1908 on ITV, and it changed Saturday morning telly forever. Before this, kids were mostly watching Live and Kicking on the BBC, but Ant McPartlin and Declan Donnelly, along with Cat Deeley, quickly turned things around. The show pulled in about 2.5 million viewers at its peak and crushed the competition. What made it different was how it treated its audience. These presenters acted like your mischievous older siblings rather than nice aunts or uncles. They took the piss out of celebrities during interviews and each other constantly. The sketches pushed boundaries for kids' TV. Chums was basically a Friends parody where they got massive celebrities like the Spice Girls and Pierce Brosnan to appear in ridiculous skits, and half the time everyone was coursing on camera. Wonkey Donkey became legendary. Kids had to answer questions correctly or deliberately get words wrong. Pokémon battles had viewers sending in their own fights. The show ran until 2003, and nothing's really matched it since. The lineup shifted depending on which network you picked, but certain shows became appointment viewing no matter where they aired. Fox Kids built its reputation on action-heavy blocks. X-Men ran early, sometimes at 7:30, bringing mutant prejudice and team drama to kids munching through their Cheerios. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers owned a later slot, usually around 10:30, and if you missed Tommy Oliver morphing into the Green Ranger with that flute, you waited 7 days to see it again. Kids WB threw Animaniacs into the mix. Yakko, Wacko, and Dot bouncing off walls with songs that somehow taught geography. Pokémon arrived in 1998 and became an instant obsession, every episode ending with Ash failing to catch them all. Batman. The animated series felt darker, almost like a crime drama in costume, while Spider-Man swung between serious stakes and quippy one-liners. Nickelodeon ran Rugrats earlier for the younger lot, those babies' eye-view adventures that worked for all ages. The schedule mattered because you couldn't scroll or search. You committed to a network number and rode out commercials every 8 minutes. If your show got moved or cancelled, you found out the hard way. Phone-in games were the ultimate shot at telestardom for kids at home. Shows like Live and Kicking would let you ring in and play a game live on air, and your living room suddenly felt electric. The prize was decent, maybe a console or toys, but really it was about being on actual television. You'd scramble for the phone the second they put the number up, dialing frantically while your heart hammered. Then came the engaged tone, that monotonous beep, beep, beep that meant thousands of other kids had the same idea at the exact same second. You'd redial over and over, knowing you had no real chance, but still hoping. Some kids reckoned if you timed it right, you'd get through, but it was wishful thinking. If you somehow got through to a real person, you'd practically explode with excitement. The lucky handful who made it on air became instant legends at school the following Monday. They'd answer questions or play video games over the phone while presenters cheered them on. Recording shows on VHS in the 80s and 90s was a delicate operation that required planning and a bit of luck. You'd start by programming the VCR, which meant fiddling with tiny buttons that needed elf-sized fingers to operate properly. Setting the date, time, channel, and recording speed took genuine concentration. If you got the AM/PM setting wrong or picked channel 3 when you meant channel 4, you'd wake up to discover you'd recorded absolutely nothing or the wrong program entirely. Sports running late was another nightmare because your recording would start halfway through the show you actually wanted. Once you successfully recorded something, the next step was labeling the tape. Most blank tapes came with spine stickers so you could write what was on them, and organizing your collection felt like being a librarian of your own little video archive. But the real heartbreak came when someone in your household taped over your Saturday morning cartoons without checking first. That meant your carefully built collection was just gone, replaced by some football match or soap opera you didn't care about. There's an unwritten law that governs households every Saturday morning. You don't get dressed before midday, not properly dressed anyway. The alarm stays silent, work clothes stay hanging in the wardrobe, and you shuffle about in whatever you slept in. Some people add a dressing gown on top, the thick toweling sort, or one of those silky kimono numbers. Slippers come out too, those worn-down ones with flattened backs, because you never quite lift your feet properly. The whole setup becomes armor against the day starting too soon. People will make a full breakfast while wearing pajama bottoms, answer the doorbell in their nightshirt, even nip out to the bins if they reckon the neighbors aren't looking. When 12 o'clock arrives and you're meant to be somewhere, there's this massive internal resistance. You stand there staring at proper clothes like they're instruments of torture, wondering if you can just throw a coat over the whole lot and hope nobody notices. The Saturday morning pajama protocol isn't about laziness, it's about claiming a few hours where the outside world can absolutely do one. Going Live launched on BBC One in 1997 and ran right through to 1993, taking over from Saturday Superstore. Philip Schofield and Sarah Green fronted the show, broadcasting live from Studio 7 at TV Centre every Saturday morning for around 3 hours. Schofield brought along Gordon the Gopher, a squeaky glove puppet who quickly became a national icon despite being essentially a bit of yellow felt on someone's hand. The show followed the basic Saturday morning formula: phone-ins, pop music, celebrity guests, competitions, but with a live energy that made it feel current. Trevor and Simon provided comedy sketches between segments, creating characters like the Sister Brothers and Moon Monkey. Peter Simon hosted Double Dare, a game show segment famous for ending with someone falling into gunge. The show wasn't afraid to tackle serious topics either. Philip Hodgson ran Growing Pains, an agony uncle segment where kids could phone in about difficult issues like abuse or eating disorders, which was pretty heavy for a Saturday morning. Sarah Green missed part of the second series after a helicopter crash in 1998, and Schofield had to step back during the final series when he was performing in Joseph. Guest presenters filled in both times. The show ran for 6 series before morphing into Live and Kicking. The Sweet Shop run was basically a religious experience for kids in the 70s and 80s. You'd wake up Saturday morning with your pocket money, maybe 10 pence or 25 pence if lucky, and head straight to the corner shop. These places were cramped little newsagents with scuffed lino floors and that smell of newsprint mixed with sugar. Behind the counter sat glass jars packed with penny sweets, flying saucers, blackjacks, fruit salads, sherbet dips, the lot. You'd stand there working out how far your money stretched, maybe getting a curly-whirly or marathon bar if you felt flush. The Beano or Dandy sat stacked with the newspapers, bright covers practically shouting at you. Leftover coins might go toward Tizer or cream soda, those fizzy drinks tasting of pure chemicals and sugar. The shopkeeper, usually some grumpy older person, would count your penny sweets into a paper bag one by one. You'd leave clutching your haul like treasure, already planning which sweet to demolish first. It was simple, but those few coins meant total freedom to a kid. Saturday morning wrestling in the 1990s meant WWF programming on local channels, and if you were a kid then, you knew exactly when it was on. You had The Undertaker, who dressed like a mortician and rolled his eyeballs back, Bret the Hitman Hart with his pink sunglasses, and Shawn Michaels doing his pretty boy routine before super kicking someone's head off. Kids copied everything they saw, doing these moves on their mates in backyards or attempting elbow drops off the couch onto siblings. Parents absolutely hated it. They'd see their children clotheslining each other or trying submission holds and lose their minds about the violence. By the late 90s, WWF was moving into a more edgy and aggressive era, which only made parents more concerned. Schools started banning wrestling moves during playtime, sending letters home about injuries. But kids didn't care. They just kept doing it whenever adults weren't around. After the main morning shows wrapped up, you were treated to the chart countdown. This was where you discovered who was actually topping the charts and got your fix of the latest pop performances. On commercial radio stations, there was the Pepsi chart, which kicked off in 1983, with Dr. Fox hosting from Capital Radio in London. This one aired on Sunday afternoons between 4 and 7 in the evening and was broadcast on something like 80 to 100 Anton local stations across the country. The top 10 matched the official UK singles chart that Radio 1 used, but positions 11 to 40 mixed in airplay data alongside actual sales, so it was slightly different. Then in 1988, ITV launched CD UK to replace the chart show. This one went out on Saturday mornings, right after SMTV Live, usually around 11:30. Anton Deck hosted it with Kat Deely, and unlike the video-only chart show before it, CD UK had live studio performances from the biggest pop acts, plus interviews and competitions. They even announced the Saturday chart, which gave you the new chart positions a whole day before Radio 1's official countdown, making Top of the Pops look rather out of date. The knock would come around 9:30 on a Saturday morning, that distinctive tap-tap-tap on the front door that meant someone from the street wanted to know if you could come out. Your mum would answer, and there'd be this awkward exchange where the neighborhood kid would ask, "Can he come out to play?" while you lurked behind in the hallway hoping she'd say yes. But first came the negotiations. Had you tidied your room, done the washing up, cleaned your shoes for Sunday? If you'd been smart, you'd have done them all before breakfast. Once you got the nod, you'd grab your coat and join the growing crew outside, going door to door like you were collecting mates the way some kids collected stamps. By the time you'd done the whole street, you might have 6 or 7 of you, all ready to head off to the park or that bit of wasteland behind the shops where someone's older brother had built a rope swing. You just had to be home when the streetlights came on. Between the cartoons came the real programming, the toy commercials that turned Saturday mornings into a weekly catalogue of everything you suddenly needed. These weren't gentle suggestions, but 30-second assaults of colour and music showing kids having the time of their lives. Super Soaker ads depicted slow-motion water battles like action films. Crossfire had that metal guitar riff, making a board game feel like warfare. Tamagotchis got spots showing digital pets that would die if you didn't buy one. Every ad followed the same formula. Show the toy, show kids going mental, repeat the name 5 times, done. The jingle's stuck in your head for days. You'd watch with a mental notepad running, adding items to a birthday list that grew longer each break. Networks knew what they were doing, and the line between entertainment and advertisement basically vanished. You were being sold to constantly, but it felt like possibility rather than manipulation. Every commercial promised this one toy would transform your playground status and entire existence, and in that window between advert and cartoon, you believed it. For most kids in the 70s and 80s, Saturday morning telly had a hard stop at around noon. Tiswas would end at 12 for World of Sport, and the BBC had Grandstand starting at similar timing. The shift was brutal in its own way. 1 minute you're watching pop stars getting gunged or phoning in to win prizes. The next minute, middle-aged men in blazers are discussing football results and horse racing odds. This was the cue for parents to step in. You'd hear the call from the kitchen, something like, "Right, that's enough telly, go outside and get some fresh air." The disappointment was real. You'd been sat there for 3 hours straight, and now the fun bit was over, but there wasn't much choice. The sports coverage was deadly boring if you weren't into it, and your mum or dad was already moving toward the telly to turn it off themselves. So you'd grab your coat, maybe knock for a mate from down the street, and head outside to actually do something. The transition from screen time to playtime was abrupt, but that's just how Saturdays worked.